CEO of the Gresham Area Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for joining us today for our monthly Government Affairs Forum. I think today's topic is particularly relevant and important to our East County region. We have our candidate chair debate for Multnomah County, and we've been talking a lot about this in our Government Affairs Committee and just as a community as a whole. This seat is very important to our county because of the number of services that come to our region from the county. So we're keenly interested in our candidate today, who will be introduced by Andre Wang, our facilitator. But to get started, I would very much like to thank our sponsors, our presenting sponsor, PGE, and also Riverview Community Bank. And Larry, thank you much for being here today as one of our sponsors. And Gresham School District, who is our other. We also have several elected officials that I want to thank for being here. Gresham City Council President Lori Stegman, thank you very much. She's also our chamber liaison on council, so we interact quite a lot. City Councilor Michael McCormick from the City of Gresham, and City Councilor from Fairview, Ted Twisteroy. Thank you for being here, all of you. Tosterud, excuse me, Ted. I'd also like to acknowledge Warner Allen, the chair of the Government Affairs Committee this year. Thank you for your commitment. And now I'm going to turn it over to Andre Wang, who is our former chair, but also our present facilitator for many years for this particular event. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Allison. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to spring break in Oregon. Well, Multnomah County is arguably the largest, most influential municipal government in the state. And the Multnomah County Board of Commissioners is comprised of 5 members, 4 at-large representatives, and 1 chair that is elected at-large. In 56 days, on May 20th, you will have the opportunity to cast your vote for the position of Multnomah County Chair. So today we're pleased to have 3 of the candidates joining us today. Former Multnomah County Commissioner Deborah Kafori, former Portland City Commissioner Jim Francesconi, and Mr. Stephen Reynolds. So for today's discussion, we'll pose questions to the candidates developed by the Chamber's Government Affairs Council. And for the sake of time and brevity, the candidates will have the opportunity to respond to the questions. And in the order in which they'll respond, we'll rotate alphabetically with each question. At the end, the candidates will have the opportunity to give a 3-minute closing statement. Are there any questions? Good. Let's get to the this morning. Jim Francesconi. In 1997, Jim was elected to the Portland City Commission, where he served for 8 years. In his commission chain of command, he managed Portland's Park and Rec, Department of Transportation, and Fire and Emergency Services. He holds his bachelor's from Stanford and his law degree from the University of Oregon. Today, Jim is a partner with the law firm Hagelin & Kelly, and also is a member of the Oregon State Board of Higher Education and the World Affairs Council. Deborah Kafori. Deborah was first elected to the Multnomah County Commission in 2008, re-elected in 2012, where she served on the county's Audit Commission and co-chaired the Domestic Violence Review Committee. A graduate of Grant High School and Whitman College, she served as an aide to Congressman Les Aucoin. In 1998, Deborah was elected to the Oregon Legislature, where she served 3 terms in the House of Representatives, serving as House Democratic Leader at age 34, its youngest in Oregon history. Today, she continues to serve as co-president of the PTA at her children's elementary school. Mr. Stephen Reynolds is a retired Army lieutenant that has worked in the area of real estate finance. He holds his bachelor's from the U.S. Military Academy at West Point in psychology, and also spent a year teaching in China. In 2012, Mr. Reynolds ran for Congress in District 1. Today, he is the founder of Nugget and ECSwap.com and continues to volunteer for Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and Veterans for Peace. We are pleased to welcome our panel this morning. We will start in alphabetical order, so we will start with Commissioner Francesconi, and then Commissioner Kafori, and then Mr. Reynolds, and then rotate from there. So, question 1, and this one will be a 4-minute response. The other questions will be 3 minutes. But for this one's the heavy hitters, we'll give you each 4 minutes. Let's cut right to the bone. Whether perception or reality, East Multnomah County is like a forgotten relative to the rest of Multnomah County in services and community nurturing. So a 2-part question. Give us instances in your record of achievements that directly affected the areas east of 82nd or east of 205, and what would you do in your administration to change this East County phenomenon? Mr. Francisco.
Thanks for having us all. I appreciate it very much. I want to just say quickly at the outset that we are one region, and that means that the east side of this region economically, which is here, needs to be strengthened for the good of all of us. That's my commitment, should I have the privilege and honor of being your chair. In terms of what I've done specifically, several things. One, when I was in charge of fire for the city of Portland, we actually worked out a joint agreement with Gresham Fire Station and the city of Portland to actually have a co-located fire station. And that's because I knew that it was the efficient way to do things, but I also knew that public safety was critical. At that point, I had no idea how low the tax bases were for these small cities. But I knew it was the right thing to do, number one. Number two, when I was in charge of transportation for the city of Portland, I actually redirected light rail along 205. The original route was supposed to be Milwaukee. And the reason it was the right-of-way, but I also knew that we needed to put transportation infrastructure east. Number three is when I led the parks levy effort, which was a levy to maintain facilities, we also completed the East Portland Community Center, and we also purchased parkland kind of east. In addition, when in prior campaigns that I've run, I actually had meetings in Gresham. That's where I met with people, even when I was a city commissioner, because I knew even then that poverty was moving east. Also, I was the one that created the Lentz Urban Renewal District, because I realized we were creating urban renewal districts downtown, and I could see poverty moving. At that point, I could see Rockwood right across, and the ability, but there wasn't really any ability to influence it. One of the reasons that primary reason that I'm running for chair of Multnomah County is because poverty is moving east, and I hand out this map everywhere, not just here. Everywhere I go, I think part of the job of a chair, but I'm doing it as a candidate, is highlighting what is happening in our community. So I handed this out last night in St. John's, but I also handed it out in downtown Portland so that we can show what needs to happen as a community. And there's two ways to view this. One is you can view it as the brown areas are 20% below poverty levels. But the other is it's an opportunity here. I'm sure one of your questions is going to be about economic development, and there's, I hope, and so there's a great opportunity to strengthen kind of the east side. So those are things that I've specifically done. What was the second part of the question?
What would be different in your administration to change this, the East County phenomenon?
Well, as I said, first of all, there's going to be a focus. The county spends $37 million on economic development right now. How we engage you in the small cities in how that money is spent is one. Ramping up the transportation infrastructure, how we connect to the industrial lands is two. Number three is how we partner with the cities to increase their capacity in economic development. The county has to play a special role, but also the supportive role that we play with boys and girls clubs, the kind of things that you have difficulties doing given your low tax base, there's something else. So again, those are just some of the specifics, including you, and how you're included in boards and commissions to help represent the whole side. Those are just a few of the specifics.
Thank you. Good morning. I really appreciate you holding this forum this morning and allowing us the opportunity to meet with you and talk about our vision for Multnomah County. I'm really excited to be running for Multnomah County Chair, and I'm very excited to be here talking to you in Gresham. I believe strongly that Multnomah County needs to represent the entire community, and that it's important for us as the chair to be visible, to be seen, and to be your partner on getting things done. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the things that we have done at Multnomah County over my 5 years on the commission, recognizing not only that poverty is moving east, but recognizing that we have a responsibility to focus our efforts and our time and our energy here in East County. First of all, when I first got to Multnomah County, my area of expertise is working with families who are homeless. And Multnomah County has that charge of working with homeless families. And when I first came to Multnomah County, I noticed that there was not a lot of homeless services here in East County. So we started off by contracting and providing contract with Join, which is a nonprofit that works with homeless individuals, really chronically homeless individuals, and gets them off the street and into housing. So we funded them specifically to do outreach in East County and help get those chronically homeless individuals into housing. We started with the $75,000 contract, and currently it's up to $120,000. I don't believe that's enough. And I have been talking with Mayor Bemis, and will continue to talk with folks here about what it is that you would like to see from Multnomah County in the area of homeless services. I'm also proud of some of the work that we did right off the bat, which was to build an East County courthouse. That courthouse had been in our responsibility for decades, and when I first went out and toured the 1970s old dance hall that was extremely dilapidated, it made me fear for my safety and for the safety of the individuals who are working there. So we talked with you, we worked with you to find out what area of town would be the best area to put the new courthouse in that would help spur economic development, and we chose the Rockwood area. And I think that the building we have today is beautiful, and it's a testament to Multnomah County's commitment to East County. Some of the other services that we provide are around health care, and when I came to Multnomah County, we opened our first health clinic in over a decade in the Rockwood area, which has quickly become one of our most popular and heavily used health clinics. Another area is obviously the economic downturn hit was really detrimental to many, many families in our community. We had Sun School champions coming to us and saying, kids are coming to school on Monday and they haven't eaten all weekend. And so we developed at Multnomah County, we funded food pantries. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel. So we did some GIS mapping and found where there were areas in our community where there were no food pantries available. And then we partnered with the Oregon Food Bank with just a small amount of money from Multnomah County, $10,000 per school. We partnered with the Oregon Food Bank to open up food pantries in the Sun schools in our community. The majority of those are in East County, and they've been wildly successful. There was a fear that there would be some stigma for children and families to get food from school, but actually the contrary has happened. They've been wildly successful. Families are connecting with their schools who hadn't had another reason to go and felt compelled to go to schools are now connected. The families are connected with the teachers and the principal. And as I said, the majority of those food pantries have been in East County, the other ones at Madison High School. And then we, along with school-based health centers, is another area that Multnomah County works with. And we opened last year one in David Douglas, and this year our prediction we're going to open one in the Centennial School District. So thank you very much.
Good morning. Thank you for having me again. It's a real pleasure to be here. My name is Stephen Reynolds. I'm running for Multnomah County Chair. And a little bit about me, you may not know. It was mentioned I'm a West Point graduate, former Army officer. I'm also a small business owner. And I think I have a good understanding of what needs to happen at the county level to make business a viable thing here in Multnomah County again. Experiences changing things east of 82nd Avenue. I don't have any. I'm not and never have been an elected official. Then again, my opponents have been, and we're still where we are. They've affected policy over the last 20 years, and East County is still East County, considered distinct and separate from Portland. I think one of the primary functions of government is to enable commerce through infrastructure, and in that vein, I think one of the primary ways of integrating East County into the greater Multnomah County, primarily the Portland metropolitan area, is through infrastructure. Something I was made keenly aware of on my way here this morning, there is no easy way to get to Gresham. And not that that can be changed overnight, but I was taking a lot of back roads that were dark and scary at 5:30 this morning. And it would have been nicer if I hadn't hit any potholes on the way here. I think bridges are also key to integrating East County into Multnomah County. And what I'd really like to do at the county level is to extend public-private partnerships, things like the Google Fiber Initiative, where businesses choose to invest in our communities, and they provide valuable infrastructure and services to our communities. And that's all I have to say on this question.
Thank you. This next question will start with Commissioner Kafori, and we'll rotate out. This one's on economic development. What is the county's most direct and best role in fostering economic development in this region? And mainly, what is your plan to help East County to be a better place to live and foster economic growth?
Thank you. I think the number one thing that Multnomah County can do to help with economic development in East County and all over our region is to do the job that we do and to do it well. Multnomah County has a very important mission, and it is to help people who are having trouble. And if we do our job well, if we make sure that everyone in our community is housed, is healthy, and is safe, then we create the foundation that businesses can thrive. I also believe there are some specific things that we can do to help with economic development in East County, and there are some things that we have done, and one of them is around the area of transportation. Multnomah County recently passed the East Metro Connections Plan. This was a plan that had been talked about for decades and did not have the funding to go forward. With the leadership of Commissioner McKeel, the commission passed it and Metro passed it, and it got federal funding to help develop the connections between 84 and 26. Now this is important, as you all well know, it's important for livability of our community, it's important for safety in our community, and it's important for freight mobility. It allows lands to be developed when there is traffic connections. So Road 238 is currently under construction, and when I'm chair, we will make sure that the rest of the plan is funded as well. I also think Multnomah County has an area to play in economic development through the use of our lands. Multnomah County owns land and we own buildings. And it's imperative that we look and make sure that that land and those buildings are being used productively. And if not, they need to be sold. They need to be sold so they can be developed into productive uses. And we've already done that while I've been in the commission. We have sold, excuse me, we sold the Morrison Bridgehead in downtown Portland. It's going to be redeveloped. And we're working currently to sell the property across the street from McMinimans, the pig farm, so that that can be developed as well. So I think it's really important that we look at our holdings, make sure that we are using them appropriately, and if not, sold to businesses that can put those into better use. Thank you very much.
Mr. Reynolds.
So how do we foster economic growth and opportunity in Multnomah County? I think primarily we get out of the way. I think that there are burdensome regulations, and whether it's policy or perception, Multnomah County isn't the place that businesses want to relocate to or expand in. So I would propose that we would establish a panel of local business leaders like yourselves and identify key areas that cause people to think twice about locating and establishing themselves here in Multnomah County. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. I think it's really critical to understand that the mission of the county has to include not only increasing the safety net and supporting people, but specifically it has to be to do more to get people to help themselves out of poverty. That has to be a specific mission of the county. And to do that, that means there's a critical role in economic development and job creation, but also workforce training and to connect people, our own folks, with economic opportunity. So number one is acknowledging that $37 million is in the budget for economic development and engaging you in how that money is spent in a way that helps especially the smaller cities that do not have the tax base, how we engage you in a conversation yourselves so that you're involved in that. That's kind of number one. Two, the transportation infrastructure connected to the available land and how we're going to actually work with you to recruit businesses, especially in healthcare. There's a great opportunity here. You have available land, how we actually recruit businesses and support the cities in a very proactive way. There's great opportunities with available land throughout the east side. Thirdly, developing how we're going to support small businesses. There's no Portland Development Commission east of Portland, and how we're going to work with the Economic Alliance, the East Side Economic Alliance, the small cities, to actually support small businesses. One of the things that I did at the City of Portland was create a small business council that actually reviews rules and regulations ahead of time. And how we do that with you is a third thing. Fourthly, on the workforce side, there's a great asset here, and that is Mount Hood Community College. I've had a lot of experience working with Portland Community College and how we help Mount Hood in terms of their development and their connections is really critical. I'm still on the State Board of Higher Education. How we create, whether it's Eastern, or OIT, or Portland State, to create a presence with Mount Hood on the university side would really help here. And I have the connections and relationships to do that. I also think that how we get our young people into the economy is a critical role. So the work that Diane McKeel's doing, Commissioner McKeel, in STEM, how we ramp up vocational help with our high schools connected to our community colleges, connected to our employers, especially in healthcare, manufacturing, and construction. Those are all great opportunities to also assist us. Then we also have the county as employer in terms of hiring people, in terms of purchasing goods and supplies. Those are also a role that the county needs to play more of, especially here in East County, including infrastructure projects where people from East County are employed, local hiring.
This next question will start with Mr. Reynolds, and this goes to just general delivery of county services. Multnomah County is responsible for many things: disaster services, social services, law enforcement. What things can be done better, and how do we fund and prioritize these areas while also keeping the goal of economic development?
I'm glad I got this question first. Primarily, I think the county can consolidate many of its services, especially with regards to the houseless and people in crises, by better utilizing the Wapato Center. I think that we could consolidate many of the services that people go to throughout the county into one place where people can come and get all the help that they need in one place. This would help save the county money in limiting the number of locations. It would also make things more convenient for the people trying to actually get the services that they need. That is I think a big step towards answering that question. I'd also like to see greater consolidation of county services in areas where they're needed. Right now, there are offices distributed throughout the county that maybe they don't necessarily, they're serving very small populations, and they could possibly be consolidated into larger service centers where county residents may have to travel a little bit further but can actually get more help. And I think that's what we should do.
Well, it really, given this growing divide, it is important that the county kind of lead the way in terms of efficiency. This isn't just about good intentions. This has to be about execution. And in order to do that, there are some lingering issues. The fact Wapato costs $300,000 a year to maintain, it does need to be addressed. But beyond that, there's some things the county should not be doing. So the regional bridges, TriMet, Metro, that is the place for a regional bridge authority in order to get additional resources that can be spent in transportation infrastructure out here. Ted Wheeler proposed it. My worthy opponent was in favor of a regional bridge authority at the time that Ted Wheeler proposed it. How we move forward in a way through Metro and JPAC, I've already talked to Neil McFarland about this, and it makes sense to do this in order that people pay their fair share, including Clackamas County on the Selwood Bridge, which frees up resources. But it's also going to take more than that. We do have to have stronger performance measurements, including on the 30% of the budget that's contracted out, and how we address that. There are still silos at the county, and how we cross those silos to prioritize needs to happen. But we also have to deal with middle managers too. They've made some progress, but there's still ways that lead workers should replace middle managers in span of control that the private sector has done many times before. But the big issue that we have to address is mental illness. The reality is, if you have a mental illness in this county, in this state, you're either living on the street or you're in jail. It's not cost effective, it's not fair, it's not humane. We have an opportunity to address it now with the Medicaid dollars coming into the community. That means that there's 160,000 people that are going to have health insurance, including mental health and addiction. Outside In has already signed up 1,200 youth, 18 to 24 years old, for those services. Using those dollars, there's different estimates, but it looks like there's about $20 million in county resources that could also be directed. It needs to stay in mental health and addiction. So having very low income housing with wraparound services is cheaper and it's more cost effective. And that is driving up the sheriff's budget at about $5 million. And it's not overtime, and it's been going on for years. The issue is how we do this humanely in a way that saves money, but is also cost effective. That's what we need to do, and that's what I'm committed to do.
My first, excuse me, getting a cold. My first year at Multnomah County, we were facing a $42 million budget hole. And this is when we had, our general fund budget was about $420 million. So that was a huge percentage that we had to cut. And the way we went about it was looking at prioritizing our services. And I really believe that Multnomah County cannot, as a government, cannot be all things to all people. We have to prioritize. We have to focus on what's the most important. We have to continue to build partnerships. And we have to prioritize funding for those programs that deliver results. And those are the values that I've held throughout my time on the commission and will continue to do as your next county chair. Because as I said, it doesn't make sense for Multnomah County to be all things to all people or to reinvent the wheel. We need to work with people who are doing a great job in our community. One of those areas is on workforce development. There's over 80 organizations in our community that handle that workforce development and workforce training. It's our role to partner with those organizations, like with Work Systems, Inc., that does a fabulous job of getting people jobs. Last year, in their last fiscal year, 35,000 people in our community got jobs through Work Systems. One of the areas that I did this as a county commissioner was around our services for the homeless. We had noticed that Home Forward was housing people with Section 8 vouchers and helping people get into housing. Multnomah County was then providing some of those families and some other families mental health counseling and drug and alcohol counseling. And Work Systems, Inc. was providing a different set of families with job training. Well, we thought it would be much more effective and common sense to give those same families that are in housing the drug and alcohol counseling and the mental health counseling they need to get back on their feet, and then give those families job training so that they can get jobs. This program was so successful that last year Work Systems, Inc. received a $5 million federal grant to replicate and grow this program. This is the kind of partnerships that I don't just talk about, that I actually do put to work on the ground. The other area that we're working on and continuing our partnerships is around housing. I know this is a crazy system, but right now, the City of Portland handles homeless individuals. Multnomah County is responsible for homeless families, and Home Forward does Section 8 vouchers. This doesn't make sense at all. So we are working right now, we have been for the past 2 years, on a plan called A Home for Everyone. And I understand that next week, in fact, Multnomah County will be coming out to Gresham to talk with your commissioners about this plan to get Gresham at the table, because it's really important that we have all our community partners around the table. But by coordinating and consolidating our services, I believe that we can better streamline and target where those dollars are going in our community to make the biggest difference and the most bang for our buck.
The next question, we'll start with Commissioner Francisconi, is on education and workforce development, which is a big issue here. It's supporting STEM, CTE, SUN programs. How will you address the gap between jobs and the available workforce and funding these programs?
It's as I started this campaign, the very first day was at Reynolds Middle School. And to see the work that the teachers are doing to raise test scores at a time when 30 to 40% of the kids are only eating at school is a compelling driving force as to how we need to address this growing gap between those who have and those that don't. So the first is, as you may know, I'm the co-founder along with Bev Stein of the Sun School program. So it was great to see that they're putting more resources into Reynolds through the Sun program, but it's going to take a whole lot more than that. So how we actually use the schools as hubs for mental health services, for social services, to kind of reach the parents in the apartment complexes, that's one. How we expand the model into early childhood programs, like is happening at David Douglas, is a second. A third is working with the districts to change the scheduling, like is happening at Rosa Parks, where you actually have kids going to school now next year in July, August, and using that as a model that we promote. Those are part of it. But the question was, how do we then connect these to work? And that means using the county as an employer to hire people, paid internships, but it's also creating these connections between the high schools, the community colleges, and our employers, like is happening to expand opportunities for internships and apprenticeship programs, connecting apprenticeship programs so that people earn while they learn. There's kind of great opportunities with the skilled workforce now with job openings in construction, healthcare, and manufacturing. Those are other areas that we can actually do something now. That's an approach that we need to take. But part of this is really working to support the community colleges too in Mount Hood, and how Mount Hood kind of developing its capacity. But we also, at the end of the day, it also means that we need more major employers here, and how we can recruit and locate employers to help create the capacity has got to be part of what we do. The county with the library district, there is an opportunity with the revenue forecast. There's actually money that's being generated now. The revenue forecast for the next 4 years is positive. So how we prioritize those resources to target the connecting between our high schools and our employers has got to be a top priority, and it will be.
I have to keep this sheet that tells us what order we go in because I'm getting, don't want to make a mistake. I think it starts with early childhood, and we have a really unique opportunity coming forward because the legislature has targeted Multnomah County in partnership with United Way to be the hub for early learning in our county. And one of the things that we're going to start by doing is to inventory all the services that go on. We spend a lot of money on early learning and early childhood development, but we don't have a way of knowing whether those dollars are being well spent, whether the right programs are getting the right services and the right amount of dollars. So we need to make sure that that happens, that we look around our community and find out where these, where the services are being provided, set a baseline, and then where we want to be, and and then provide the outcomes that we need to get there. And this is going to be a huge task, but it's going to take all of us together working on it. Then I do believe Sun schools are crucial in our community, and that's why I have fought every single year that I've been on the Multnomah County Commission to make sure that we continue to fund our Sun schools. Even when we were cutting our budget, we maintained a level of funding for Sun schools, and in fact have been able to grow the Sun schools in our community. The majority of the growth has occurred in East County, and that's been in partnership with the local school districts. They've come to us and said, if we put up half the money, will you put up half the money? They know how important Sun schools are for their community students, and we agree with that. I also believe that having paid internships is key, and we have a program at Multnomah County where we hire kids during the summer who would otherwise be getting into trouble, and we have them come and work in all areas of Multnomah County. I had an intern last summer. He was on the football team from David Douglas, and he every year took every day would take 2 buses to get to my office. Then he would go take another 2 buses to go to football practice and then back to school. We paid him about $3,000 for his work over the summer, and I asked him at the end of the summer what he was going to do with his money, thinking he was saving up to buy a car or something like that. And he said he was going to buy a bed because he was still sleeping on his twin toddler bed that his mother bought him. This is a football player who was about 6'3". Broke my heart. But it made me realize the importance of helping him learn the skills in our office and also learn how to save money then he could to be a responsible member of our community. I have been really excited about the work that we've done in partnership with ACE Academy. I think that continuing to support ACE Academy, the work that they do with taking students who attend school in East County primarily half the day and then half the day at ACE Academy, where they learn architecture, construction, and engineering. The things that those kids are doing is amazing. Those are the types of programs that should be replicated because those are kids are the workforce of our future. And then, of course, our relationship with the community college is really important. I just had a lovely meeting with the president at Mount Hood Community College, and I think that the areas of partnership there are huge, and there's a lot that we can do together. Thank you.
Both my opponents touched on a lot of issues. Some of the things that I think are key in addressing the issues of jobs and the available workforce in Multnomah County are Multnomah County does have a shortage of jobs. I mean, it's lagging the state and the rest of the nation in job creation. While states like North Dakota, businesses are competing for employees. The starting wage in North Dakota is about $15 an hour, and it's not because the state mandates a minimum wage of $15 an hour. It's because there just aren't enough workers to fill the available jobs. And I think we can have the same sort of situation here in Multnomah County. We need to be saying yes to businesses in Multnomah County. I think all too often we're saying no, or at least creating roadblocks. So from the seat of the Multnomah County, I would use the pulpit, so to speak, to advocate for businesses that wish to relocate and train citizens in Multnomah County in marketable skills. I also think that we can do more as a county to extend preferential tax agreements, things like gain share agreements, with businesses willing to relocate or establish themselves here in Multnomah County. I think that's something that's not being talked about enough. Our sister county, Washington County, is doing an excellent job in advocating for these sorts of agreements, but we're not. One of the areas I think that I differ from my opponents most greatly is I don't think that we should be hiring people at the county government, interns or otherwise, to create jobs. I don't think that's how you create jobs. I think we can take some money from the county budget and establish a system where we partner the same sorts of individuals that Ms. Kafori was talking about, the football player, high school kids who need job skills. We can partner them with community leaders and businesses in the community in paid internships. I think that's the best path to training a future workforce in marketable skills. And thank you.
Next question, we'll start with Commissioner Kafori, and this goes to public safety. We deal with a lot of interesting law enforcement issues out here. Gangs, MACs, human trafficking. Our local police departments are overstressed. At the county level, what are your priorities for East Multnomah County in the area of public safety, and how do we address them?
Thanks. I'm going to start by talking about 2 key areas, what we have done and what I will do as your county chair. First of all is around the area of gang funding. We know that gangs are moving east. We know that there still is a problem with gangs in North and Northeast Portland, but there is a growing problem in East County. And at Multnomah County, we have worked very hard to bring the community together, building partnerships around finding ways to reduce gang violence. And we've been successful in North and Northeast Portland. And I'm really excited that we're replicating this very successful program from Northeast Portland here in East County. I was just at a meeting a couple weeks ago. We had all the law enforcement folks around the table, the DA, the sheriff, Chief Jenninger, talking about, and community partners talking about ways that we can more effectively address the issue of gang violence here. One of the things that we have learned over the years through best practices that works the best is to do the wraparound services for the entire family. In the past, it was just commonplace to take the kid and try to work with the kid who was involved in the gang. And we know that just doesn't work. Then the kid goes home to his or her family where those same issues are just replicated. So by providing wraparound services to the entire family, it's been very successful. There's a program at youth villages that the county just got federal dollars to partner with youth villages to provide these programs. It's extremely effective, and I want to continue to do that as your next county chair. Another area is around domestic violence. And as a state legislator, I created the first statewide fund for victims of domestic violence and continued that work at Multnomah County by hiring emergency response support, so women who actually drive around with the police force in the cars to help assist at the scene of a crime. It's much more effective to relate to somebody who's experienced domestic violence when you have a survivor, you have someone who's there who understands what they're going through. I think we need to better coordinate our domestic violence services. Right now, if somebody is a victim and they call, you have to call around to a shelter. You just call around and around until you find someone to serve you. That's just re-victimizing the poor woman who's trying to escape. So under my leadership, we are now looking at coordinating our services so that there's one phone call, and if the person is having a life-threatening situation, we get them directly into safety. And if not, we find out what they need, whether it's a restraining order, housing, mental health services, and that way it's one phone call, and these are the kind of programs that I will continue to champion as your next chair.
Mr. Reynolds.
I think that gangs flourish where there is a lack of opportunity, and we addressed that previously in our economic development. I think that if we make a greater effort to economically develop East County and Multnomah County as a whole, that the issue of gangs and gang violence will diminish. I think we need to build trust between our sheriff's department and our public. I'm not saying that there's bad blood, but there is a certain amount of distrust, especially with the less advantaged youth. I propose that we put sheriffs in schools, but without their battle rattle, that their body armor, their weapons, their tasers. Put them in schools where they can partner with teachers and show that they're people too. And we can grow trust, starting with our youngest children. I'd also like to partner social workers with deputies so that they may respond to people in crises on a 24-hour basis. You know, if someone calls in as a victim of domestic violence, or someone is on the street corner ranting and breaking windows, and you know, sometimes just sending a sheriff with a gun isn't the best solution. They're trained in conflict resolution, but oftentimes guns, I've found in my experience, tend to escalate situations, whereas people who have training and a calm demeanor tend to de-escalate those same situations. And that's all I have to say on the matter.
You know, public safety is the primary responsibility, is a foremost responsibility of the county and the county chair, any local government. So let's talk about money and resources. The city of Gresham, I think the numbers are about $47 million they spend in fire and police, yet their property tax base is only $29 million. So that's why, you know, this levy is so critical that's on the ballot. There have to be kind of adequate resources to support it. That's why the county cannot be cutting the business income tax or proposing to cut the business income tax at a time where you need to fund public safety, including in Gresham. That's number one. Number two is I have a different view from my worthy opponent here on the sheriff's office and the sheriff. They do tremendous work in the community, and how they're supported. The sheriffs has led the way in community policing throughout, and how they're supported needs to happen. My son is a public defender, and he has told me that the sheriffs have credibility with all sides, from the victims to the enforcers to the judges, because of their credibility. So how we support the sheriffs out in the communities is a second priority that we have to do. Thirdly, there is the issue of the smaller cities and fire protection and how that's going to move forward. It's not for the county to dictate, but having conversations with the cities about how that's going to happen in a cost-effective way. On the issue of gangs, and I first got involved on the issue of finding jobs for gang-involved youth. And the idea of the money has to follow where the problems are. So there has to be money from Multnomah County that has to go to Boys and Girls Clubs, to wraparound services, to community groups in Rockwood to help build on it. That has to happen. That is the only way that you're going to address this, that it's going to be addressed given these low tax bases. So there's an extra responsibility to fund these programs and making sure that the